Okay, everybody, I am really excited because I had such a good talk with this man last time he was on. This is his second time on my show. He's the first person from Better Call Saul to be on my show twice, which is really cool. Michael Mando, a.k.a. Nacho, a.k.a. Ignacio, is back. How you doing, Michael?
How you doing, Steve? So nice to be back, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. This is just exciting because, it's crazy because since I last talked to you, I really talked to you at the beginning of the season where we saw where Nacho's character was, and now the season has literally just ended. So I just have a lot on my mind because there's just been so much going on with Nacho, especially in this episode. But I wanted to ask you first, what I think a lot of people have been debating is like the exact relationship status of Nacho and Mike in this season, and we see them reunite. Where do you think Nacho's head is on Mike? Do you think he actually trusts Mike, or is this just like his only last resort kind of play?
I think they're still early in their relationship. I think what Nacho does at the very end of the season is his way of showing Mike. It's like if this was a romantic relationship, it was Nacho showing that he's willing to get married and have children. You know what I mean? It's like, It's a commitment. It's a huge commitment. He shows he doesn't do it for Gus. He does this for Mike. He accepts to frame Tony because he knows that he feels in his heart that this is what Mike wants him to do. And it's his way of showing Mike, listen, man, I will play ball with you and I will go beyond what is demanded from me because I've already given you Lalo. I've delivered Lalo. I've helped you put Lalo in jail, and I've driven Lalo myself back to Mexico. So just let me be,
Yeah.
And Mike kind of, in a way, through these guys, these assassins, kind of asks Nacho, I need you to do this one more thing. And that's what this is. I think it's a leap of faith in his relationship with Mike and saying, listen, man, if you had any doubt about me and my trustworthiness, this is it.
Right.
I'll go all the way. You've got to hold your end of the bargain.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I totally see that, Michael. And I wonder, too, you mentioned Gus in that, and we see in this episode that Gus actually references Nacho to being like a disobedient dog in a sense. But as you, Michael Mando...
Not very nice. Not cool. Not cool.
No. Do you see him? Like, do you think Nacho's...
Come on, Gus. What's wrong with you, man? Calling people dogs and stuff.
Yeah, he's...
Crazy guy.
Yeah, I mean, do you see, though, like, do you think he ever sees himself as, like, disobedient in that sense, or is that just completely not true?
No, of course not. My God, you can't talk about a human being like that. You know what I mean? For me, I think you could tell Mike's face when you see that scene. And they cut to Mike, and Mike kind of looks at Gus like, man, this guy's like beyond. He's not hearing what he's saying right now. You can't call a human being anything like that. First of all, Nacho's a grown man. He's not your child. You can't treat someone like that, and that reveals more about you than it does about him. But I think Gus is a mastermind. I think he's a wonderful character played beautifully by Giancarlo Esposito. A character that I love, and I admire John's work so much. But he's a guy who's kind of really sold himself to this war, and he's unable to see life outside of his revenge plans. Everything else is secondary to him. So it's a bit of a sad character in that sense, that he's unable to understand life outside of revenge, and sees Nacho as like an asset. Sees Nacho is someone who's really, really valuable.
Right.
So no, I think it's a testament to Nacho's courage and integrity for him to not allow another human being to dictate his own faith. And I think it's a testament to Nacho's courage and heart that he's willing to fight these corporations. He's a one man against corporations. Los Pollos Hermanos is like $1 billion corporation. The cartel is like the most powerful organization in the world, in that part of the world,
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's willing to, I don't think stand up to them in the sense that, he can't battle these people, but he's willing to follow his heart and do what's right and get out and save his father's life.
Okay.
And that upsets, of course, it's going to upset Gus because he's an asset to Gus.
So when you're saying that too about like, this is something that he's trying to save his father's life, and he's really like against the man in a sense, if you look at the cartel and Gus that way, and like, when we see leading up to this finale, you feel terrible.
Well, I mean, he's made bad choices. Sorry, I had to interrupt you.
No.
I don't want to sound like I'm making Nacho sound like completely like he's got no part to play in it. he's made choices as a young man wanting to be in the game. And unfortunately, he wants out for the right reasons, but just destiny is making it incredibly hard. And he's got to go like beyond what is required of him to get out. So I don't want to paint Nacho as too innocent either. You know, he still is kind of partly responsible for the situation he's in.
No, yeah, I think that's totally fair. But what you're saying though is like with Nacho, with his motivations, like when he's in this car with Lalo, I think as an audience we all really like Nacho, and I think we root for him and we feel bad for him, but also, especially, I think just having him on the opposite side of someone like Lalo, who's just an evil man, and he can't get away from him. And I just wonder in these scenes with Lalo, like when he's driving around in the car and Nacho is so close to just dropping him off, can't get away. Why doesn't Nacho just shoot him per se, or does he feel like giving up at one point? Like, what's your take on that?
You know what I love about Nacho, and it's really honestly, it's a character that has. Man, I can't tell you how emotional I get when I think about this journey, because I've spent so much time in this guy's head, and so much of it is nonverbal. So you really got to dive so deeply into yourself to try to understand, and everything seems like microseconds. You know, he's always walking a razor edge, and it's incredible because art informs life and life informs art. And I've grown so much, you know, as a human being playing that character. I've learned so much about myself. And for me, the character really becomes a man at the end of this season. You know, it's like Ulysses, in the Odyssey, Ulysses wants to go back home. And then at the end of season 5, he goes to the heart of the Death Star. And he sits face to face with the Seth, you know, the Darth Vader's master,
right?
And looks him in the eye, and kind of in a strange way chooses the light. He looks the Seth in the eyes, who's like Darth Vader's boss, and he says to him, "I want out. I want nothing to do with this. I don't like you. I don't like this game. I don't want to play this game." And I choose the light. And at the end of the season, he's literally running into the forest trying to find home. And I don't think home for Nacho is so much a physical place anymore. I think it's just become a sense of comfort within himself, a place of redemption where he can be one with his father's love. And at least if he dies, that he dies looking out into the horizon, that he comes back home in some way or another. And that, to me, is just unbelievable, you know, to have a character grow so much over 5 years and to change archetypes.
Yeah.
You know, it's just been so informative for me as a person. You can tell I'm so passionate, and I just can't stop talking about it. I'm sorry, man.
No, I enjoy it, man. I love when you come on, because you go, and it's just so fun to listen to, and it makes my work way easier, so I appreciate it. But I think you're just an awesome interview in general, but this is the thing, is like, you're talking about him running away, and I had to say, just as an audience member and watching shows like this, and it comes from the Breaking Bad universe where we see so many deaths happen of big characters, I just think it's something for you that's awesome that we've been with Nacho since season 1. Like, he's in our soul with Better Call Saul, and there was a lot of people predicting he would die in this finale, him or Kim, and it's kind of just been fluctuating between those two because we don't know their status in Breaking Bad. And I'm wondering, do you feel like when you read the script for season 5 that you had like a sense of relief, like, holy God, I've made it again, like, I've keep going?
Man, I thought I was going to die in season 4. I remember I spoke to Peter. I said, just tell me what episodes. And he said to me at the beginning of season 4, he says, not this season.
Right.
And I had a talk with him in season 5, and I have to say I really thought it was going to happen at the end of the season. And when I read the script, when I read episode 9 and 10, it created so much anxiety because I said to myself, how is Nacho going to solve all these storylines? You've got the girls at home, you've got the money in his safe, you've got his father he needs to convince, you've got Gus, you've got Lalo who's going to want to kill him. You've got Don Eladio who suddenly has like this unbelievable interest in Nacho. And according to Steve Bauer was telling me, feels like Nacho could potentially be like the son he never had. And then you've got the police on one side, and this guy's alone in the world. You know, he's completely alone in the world, trying to do the right thing. And there's like He's got no help, you
No.
know. So hopefully Mike sees what Nacho did as a sign of loyalty, because that's what that is, you know. Nacho did it for Mike.
Right.
It's his way of showing Mike, hey man, like I'll go to the bottom, I'll go to the end of the world to show you that I'm your guy, but you've got to do that for me too, you know. You've got to show me that you're my guy, and you got to talk to your boss and make him understand that, like, I've paid my dues and more, and it's time to let me go.
With that in mind, asking Michael, and away from just unbiasedly from Nacho's character, you watching as a viewer, do you feel from seeing that scene with how Gus reacted to Mike basically asking to, like, let you out of this thing, do you see hope in maybe season 6 that Nacho has any shot of getting out of, like, Gus's grip? Or would you predict, just as a fan of the show, like, I don't see it happening? Like, how do you even feel about that?
Man, anxiety, brother. I can tell you right now, here's what I love about all this, is that Nacho's in the hardest place that you can ever imagine a character being. I mean, he's literally got every powerful force in this Breaking Bad universe. The most powerful forces are all pointing against him at the same time. You know, you've got Gus Fring, the greatest, biggest, you know, mastermind in the Breaking Bad universe.
Yes.
You've got Don Eladio. You've got his own father and Lalo Salamanca,
right,
all pointing and saying, no, not this way, not this way, not this way. And what's amazing and so heartbreaking about this character is he's really trying to do the right thing. He wants out. He's done. He doesn't want to kill anybody. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He's not interested in the money. He doesn't want the power. Doesn't want the influence. Doesn't want the girls. Doesn't want anything. He wants to live a pure life. He wants to get out, and he wants his father to accept him as his child again, to the point that he's willing to put all his money and buy his father's shop so that his father can retire. You know, it's so pretty and beautiful, and these writers are amazing. So we'll see, man. I don't know where it's going.
Absolutely. And I think what makes Nacho such a, you know, character we can sympathize with, and what I believe really was my most likable moment of Nacho in the season was actually in the finale when you get the phone call to be at the gate at 3 a.m., you know, to meet these assassins that Gus hired to take out Lalo. You know it's going down, but, like, there's a line here that Nacho's like, it's going to be clean, right? You know, there's innocent people here. There's old people here. To me, that's just amazing, because it's like this guy is literally just trying to get out of this horrible situation. He's had so much bad happen to him, but he's still even thinking of something like that. So I wanted to ask you, as like with Nacho, how does he justify in his head to still run, knowing that there's a good chance innocent people will die when he opens that gate?
I think he doesn't know. I don't think he opens the gate willingly knowing what exactly is going to happen.
Okay.
But I think he believes this is coming from Mike.
Right.
He really, truly believes this is Mike helping him out. This is Mike's, not necessarily Mike helping him out, but I think he is at the service of Mike. And the last we've seen Nacho, he tells Mike, I'm out, and he feels that Mike is potentially on his side. And when he gets this call, he says, this is coming from the one guy that I think I can trust. The only guy in this whole universe that I can trust is telling me to do this. And this is a guy who's an ex-cop, and at least on a subconscious level, we know that Mike had a son who was trying to do the right thing, who's probably about Nacho's age. And Nacho thinks that, man, this guy is, you know, if you draw Mike on one paper and you fold the paper in half and leave a mark on the other side, that's Nacho's father. They're like the yin and the yang of Nacho's life. They're the same silhouette. One is standing in the light, one is standing in the dark. But they're pretty much the same. They hold the same weight, as in Mike is the potential guy that can help him save his father. That's the parallel. It's the only bridge between those two worlds. And whatever he does it to show Mike that this guy, that he's 100% game. And hopefully Mike will really see that as a sign of profound loyalty, and will understand that not only is Nacho's trustworthy, but he's totally on the same wavelength as Mike. And when Nacho leaves, when he runs out into the forest, I think that's when he finally earns his lion crown. You know, his hair grows out, and he's a full lion at that point, and he's a man among men, and he's standing on his own shoulder, and it's kind of like the journey back home, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what's so interesting about it, too, is just so much anxiety with Nacho in this episode, in the finale, and I wonder, you talk about how much his motivation is for, to save his father and get out of there. If his father wasn't alive, do you think Nacho would have enough in his tank to keep going and push through this, or would you think he would have just given up?
That's an amazing question. I don't know. It's so hard to imagine to answer that question because it's like you're asking me to imagine that the father dies.
Right.
And for me, it's like, I can't even think about that right now. I just don't want to think about it.
Yeah, it's too dark. We're in dark times. That's a dark question.
I'd rather not think about it. Yeah. That's a tough, man. That's that's heartbreaking. Let's say Michael Mando didn't want to answer that question.
I like that.
He'd rather not think about that right now. We'll deal with it if it happens. I hope it does.
That's amazing. So also the big line I thought for Nacho in this episode was actually in the big moment when he's sitting down with Don Eladio and they're having a drink. And Don Eladio asks him, what do you want? And Nacho says, respect, make my own decisions. I don't want to be looking over my shoulder. Is this totally truthful? Is this actually what he's thinking in that moment? And can you kind of delve more into what he means by that?
Peter Gould, who I love Peter. And Peter said to me, before we were shooting, he said to me, say it from the heart. He said, mean it. And then we started rolling, and Stephen Bauer, who I absolutely love, he said to me that he sees Nacho as the son he never had. He sees like a very able young man and kind of noble and courageous, and feels like, man, this is the guy that I want running my empire, because he clearly doesn't trust the other guys, But Stephen asked to go first. Usually when you're doing a cover between two actors, sometimes some actors prefer to go first, some prefer to go second. Stephen wanted to go first. And of course, I have to give Stephen whatever he wants. Stephen is a veteran in this and someone I respect very much. Like, of course, go, please do it. And when we got to my coverage, Peter said to me, he said, mean it. He said, speak from the heart. Say it like you mean it. And tell him the truth. But of course, it's not the truth that he understands, the truth that the audience and you understand. And when we were shooting, when we got to my coverage, the sun was about to set because they had shot all the other stuff that takes place in that location that morning. And I was the last thing that they were shooting in that location. And something incredible happened. I don't know what it was, but as the sun was setting, the set became so quiet. And I was looking into Stephen's eyes, and we heard there was this sound, like a very, very soft sound during the whole scene. And it was a hummingbird.
Wow.
And we could hear the hummingbird flapping while we were doing the scene. And it was like, I felt like I was in a vortex, for a while. I felt like we somehow sort of were dropped into the heart of Nacho. And it was this like really gentle place. This very, very kind of like soft, enchanted world that was almost romantic, almost soft. That moment was really special for me. And I'm really grateful that Peter told me to play it like that. And I'm really grateful that Stephen and I got along so well and that he felt such a connection to the character before he met me because he was a fan of the show. And that we had such a strong connection. He texted me once in the middle of the night saying, let's go out. It was like 2 a.m. and I was like, what? This is awesome.
That's sick.
He texted me to hang out.
I love that.
That's that experience.
Wow. To wrap things up, Michael, I just wanted to bring up, you are also a musician and you're launching this music career you're doing. You just released a single, The Wild One, which I have linked down below in my info. Please check that out. Can we expect a full album out of this?
Thank you so much, man. This is an EP that I've been writing music my whole life, since I was 8 years old. I must have written over 200-300 songs, maybe 250, maybe, or something like that, and thousands of poems. And I've been singing my whole life and making music my whole life, and I've contributed on a lot of songs without releasing my name. And last year, unfortunately, while we were shooting, I found out my father had liver cancer. And it was stage 4. And I remember walking. It was crazy because I was shooting a show where I had to save my father's life, and then I had to deal with it in real life. And at the time, it was like devastating to me. And there's a part of me that really wanted to keep it totally private. I felt like there was such an amount of shame that I couldn't do anything. And I felt like this isn't something I ever want to tell anybody. And then I realized that there's courage in accepting life and accepting your fate and accepting that this is mortal. We're part of a mortal existence and we're all going to go. And I remember walking at night and seeing the live performers, and I was watching them. And I said to myself, man, I'd give anything if I could just go next to that bar and sit next to that guitar and just sing with him. And I walked home and I stopped and I turned around and I did it. I said, I'm going to do it. I had a hat on and glasses on, and I sang with him from like 11 p.m. to 3 in the morning. And we had a nice crowd gather around us because we were next to a bar, so they could hear us, and people were clapping and cheering and all that kind of stuff. And I said to myself, man, this feels so good, and I need to do this. And I went home and I wrote the Wild One, which is, you know, in the first verse I mentioned my father, and in the second verse I mentioned my mother, and then I decided I was going to release a trilogy, so 3 songs. And the Wild One is the emancipation. It's heading into the sunset. And then the next song is that I'm going to release in a few weeks is going to be that you're in the depths. You're facing your demons in the heart of the forest. And then the third song is you're waking up to the sunrise. And it's so personal to me, and I felt so compelled to do it. And the response has been unbelievable. I just got a text from my publicist that it's airing in Turkey, and the song's airing on the radio and stuff. And so, yeah, check it out. I hope you guys love it, and I hope you guys love the next 2.
Yes.
Check it on YouTube right now, and it'll be on the streaming services in a week.
Yes. So right there, the link to the YouTube videos right under this video. What are you doing? Watch it next. And please, if you haven't watched Call Saul, catch up to watch Michael Mando in it. It's on Netflix. It's on AMC On Demand. Check it out. Michael, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to have you on for a third time for season 6.
God bless you, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Have a good one.